out here for another week. So the plan for this week is to get this subfloor in here finished up, also on that side, and over in that back corner there is where the kitchen sink is going to go. So I'll probably leave that open until I get at least the drain plumbing in. And I need to bring in the main power and water, which will come in under the back door and under the stairs. So I need to leave that open enough where I can get to that. But I'd like to get enough where I can walk around in here pretty well and not have to worry about tripping and dropping things into the floor or below the floor and that kind of thing. And then I can start getting this wall that I took down here rebuilt, and then maybe be pushing it this week, but try to get these stairs rebuilt so that we can start getting up there and tearing things out up there. So that's the plan. We'll see if we get it done. I've talked about this Advantech flooring a little bit before when I was putting the doors in and when I was putting the siding on. It's made by the same company that the siding is made by, the same parent company, Huber. So the thing that sets Advantech apart from other subfloors is the adhesives that they use. And the thing about it is a lot of times around doors and under windows and sometimes places that you might get leaks, sometimes even in kitchens where you have dishwashers and refrigerators that may produce some water on the floor and you don't get caught, you'll end up with water seeping down into the subfloor and rotting. And so the thing that this company has done is their adhesives are actually waterproof. But one thing that most subfloor does have in common is that it is tongue and groove. So what that means is you have this edge of it has a tongue and this edge of it has a groove that tongue slides into. It's pretty common. It's been around for decades. Pretty much all hardwood flooring through the years has had that, and it just helps to keep the seams together even between the floor joist. And so the thing about this is this tongue is designed in such a way that it actually leaves just a little bit of a gap here, and that is to allow for expansion. And then on the ends you just have to leave your own gap about the width of a quarter or something. Eighth of an inch I think is what it calls for, but usually just eyeball it and say yep, that's pretty close. And that allows, if there was ever a possibility for that stuff to expand, it won't buckle up, it'll fill in that gap. So that's how subflooring works. And then when we install this subflooring, you can see actually the glue oozing out there, but you saw me putting glue down on the joists, and that is just a secondary measure to prevent squeaking later on down the road. And then we install it with these ring shank nails, and you can see they have little ribs in them. A normal nail is just a straight, smooth shank, and that makes them easier to pull out, but you don't want your subfloor to pull up. So we use these ring shank and drive them in, and then use the glue, and that should keep the subfloor from ever trying to pull away from the joist. If you've ever been in a house where you have squeaking in the floors, that's usually caused by one of the nails has backed out due to swelling of the wood from just moisture changes and things. But it'll actually push the nail out, and then when the wood contracts again, then there's that space there. When you step on it, that floor is actually rubbing on that nail because the nail's not moving, and that's where your squeaks come from. So ring shank nails and glue are the solution to that. Well, I have a problem. I've gotten as far as I can go, and now that's in the way. So I get to move all that again. Didn't think that through. Here we go. Alright, so I'm going to try to show this. There's a lot going on here, but if you'll look, right here is a door frame. Actually, the door frame is right here, this stud, but this, it's not really a header, but that's what should be a header, is going across there. So, but from here to here is like 5 feet. So in this area is the living room, and this is going to be like where you would put a couch, probably facing this way. Not completely sure, but when that kitchen door is open, it only comes to like right here. So that leaves all this extra space, and it limits the amount of space in the kitchen on this side. And this is where they're going to put some cabinets and things here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this board right here out, and I'm going to move it over here. So what that's going to do is it's going to put this door opening from here to here. It's going to move it over about a foot, actually a little bit more than a foot. And so that will give them more room on this side and less room on this side, which makes more sense. And but it's going to be a little bit tricky because in new construction, you put all your subfloor in and then build your walls on top of it. And this old house, it's obviously not done that way. And I'm not sure why they did it that way, but maybe that's just how things were done back then. So they have, since this is a supporting wall, they have that stud coming down and sitting on this block that's sitting on this baseboard. I don't know what you would call it, but it's sitting on the foundation under there. So when I take this out and cut this block off, then this is no longer going to be sitting here. So I'm going to take this block and I'm going to move it around right here, and that will transfer that load up there. And then over here, what I'm going to have to do is put another block here somewhere, add on a little piece of a baseboard, and then add that stud in there. It's going to be a little strange because there's not going to be anything tying this little section of board to this baseboard. And so it might have a tendency to want to flop. So when and there's nothing really to nail it to, because normally, like I said, you would have all this on top of your subfloor and you could just nail it down and it wouldn't go anywhere. But in this case, what I'm probably going to do is build that out, and then when I put my subfloor around that, I'll just sandwich it in there where it can't move. And if I need to, I'll throw some shims or something down in there to keep that thing from wiggling around. I don't think there's going to be an actual door there. I think it's just going to be like a cased opening, so won't really be any worry about it moving too much as far as a door slamming or anything like that. All right, so now you can see we got smaller gap there, so I think this will give more functionality to the kitchen and really the living room area, because the stairwell wall will go right over in there somewhere, so it'll give them about a foot more usable space there. And then with the block that I put in there, it actually will help keep that thing from trying to wiggle side to side, and also give me a place to nail some subflooring that's just going to be kind of hanging out there, so that'll actually work out pretty good. Go back and watch the video, or if you remember from when I did this foundation over here and replaced this base plate that is right there. So remember I talked about how that there was a 2x4 there, and I replaced it with a 2x6 so that the floor structure would have something to sit on. Well, I should have used a 2x8 because the floor joists have nothing to sit on. So I didn't really think that all the way through. So what I have to do now, in order to keep the floor structure from falling, because we don't want that to happen, So the rim joist is sitting on the base plate. It can't go anywhere. But as of right now, all the joists are held in just by nails that are toe-nailed in. So how we fix that is to use a joist hanger. If you don't have something for your floor structure to sit on, then you use hangers. And so these fit up underneath, and as you can see here, it has this little table for the joist to sit in, and then it nails into the rim joist, and it has these little holes where you drive nails through, and that holds everything in place. Okay, so one thing that we can do to get started is just to squeeze this down so it's tight where it'll fit around there. Okay, now we come up from underneath, and one cool thing is they give us these little tabs here. If you are having trouble getting it out, you can just drive those tabs in, it'll hold it in place. But part of when I squeezed it tight, that helps hold it too. And then you have these nails you drive in through these holes. And then for these angled ones, we use a longer nail. So this nail is guided through there. It catches this joist, but then it drives all the way into here. So when you have them on this side and on this side, that prevents this from trying to pull out. And there's your joist hanger in place, carrying that, transferring it to that. So I've got to go all the way down, put all those in. Not a big deal. One thing I will point out, I am not in a place where I'm getting inspected or anything like that, but if you happen to be, if you are building a deck or something like that where you have to abide by code regulations, one of the things that the inspector is going to look at is these nails. And I don't know, I think you can see it. Here's one I can kind of turn. You see the little stamp in the end. So that tells the inspector that you used the right nail, because they are specially engineered with a higher shear strength. And if you just use regular common nails, you're going to be pulling them out and redoing them. So that's how that works. Okay, so with all the mess cleaned up and with all the joist hangers in place, this side over here, I can continue on with my subflooring, all except for right there. Kitchen sink is going to go right there. So I need to get my plumbing in here. It'll come out under here and go this way. So once I get that done, this whole side can be done, and then probably wait till next week and get all the plumbing. I still have to clean up all this mess over here. I have to do a little bit of work with this corner, or this little section here. Make sure that's all good and in place. And so get all that cleaned up, and then the washing machine goes here. So I'll have plumbing that comes here. Bathroom is going to be in this area. So that'll be probably next week before I get to that. video when I was pulling up the old drain lines that the pipes weren't glued, and problem with that is they can come apart, and then, like I said, you end up with stuff under your house that you don't want under your house. So for those of you who don't know, I think this is pretty common knowledge, but some people may not know this, that glue, pipe glue, PVC glue, is actually not really a glue as much. Well, it says it's a cement, but what it actually does is you start off with a primer, and the primer is has a dye in it, and again, that's so when the inspectors come along, if you're in a place that has to be inspected, they can see that you use the primer. So the primer does is it starts softening up the plastic in the pipe. So it also cleans, like I said in the other video. You can see here that the plumbing has markings and stuff on it from the manufacturer. This one probably has, yeah, it has ink on it. So if I was to take this, that ink just disappears. It dissolves it off of there. It also will dye your fingers purple. So, but what it does is it actually begins to soften the material so that you can take your thumbnail and you can peel away pieces of it. So, and then you come second with your cement, and this I'm using as an all-purpose just because this is part of a can I had left over. And you want to do both the inner section of that piece and the outer section of this piece. And so the plastic on each one of those pieces is softening, and then when you push these together, if you're in a good position where you can twist it, that's helpful too, because what it's actually doing is melting the two of them together. So you're taking two pieces of plastic and essentially making them one. So you can't really, it's not a glue in the sense that you could pry it apart later. It's very, very, very difficult to get two pieces apart. As a matter of fact, you usually end up just breaking it rather than having it come apart. So that's the process for PVC. This is kind of a strange situation I've got going on here. Normally you would just come straight down through the floor and then elbow over into your main pipe, but because I'm coming through this kind of weird side joist, rim joist here, I've got to bring it over and then go to get it underneath these other joists, and then I'll tie it up underneath here to get it to drain the way we need it to. All right, well, that's going to be about it for this week. Nothing too exciting. I didn't get all the subfloor done. I did get most of the trash cleaned out from underneath. I got basically everything is ready for subfloor, with the exception of I need to finish the plumbing. So that's the plan for Monday. I will try to get all of the rough-in plumbing done so I can get the subfloor in, and then hopefully get these stairs built back up next week. And if I can get my wire in, then maybe get our electric service brought in here. So not a whole lot of change, but I do have subfloor enough. I can walk around, I can get things done. I feel like I spent just most of the week moving stuff from one place to another and bringing more stuff in and cleaning out dirt and trash. And so I say most of the week. I was only here a couple of days this week, so that's part of why this doesn't seem like I did a whole lot this week. But so that's it for this week. Look forward to next week getting some of these things done. Hopefully bigger changes next week. I think I'll be here every day next week. So yeah, it'd be really nice to get subfloor done and start getting some wiring and things done in here. And I don't know. I always surprise myself when I show up and do different things than what I said I was going to do. So it'd be a surprise for both of us. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.